Here we go.
Is it recording?
It is recording.
Okay.
So hi everybody. This is Justin.
And Adam.
And we're here today to talk about D&D.
Yeah, so today we are going to this is for mostly for people this episode, at least episode 1 is going to be for people who've never played D&D. You might have heard a little bit about it. And so we're talking about the basics. I'm not going to bore you with the history of D&D. But this is just a video to basically explain overall where do I begin. And eventually we'll go over some of the bigger, not flaws, but questions that people have about D&D. So we're going to start off with what are the basics and the essentials. Obviously, you need a party. And you can even do just 2 people, 1 DM, 1 player. I've done it before. It's kind of weird, but you can do it. It's totally possible. So players, obviously, you need a player. And you need a dungeon master. And I would assume most people know what a dungeon master is, but we're going to go over that on another video on what a dungeon master is, what does he do, or she, and what do you do if you want to be a dungeon master. Because I prefer playing as dungeon master, but I also just prefer playing as a player. But if I have my choice, I usually like being a dungeon master. I'm a very, very mean dungeon master.
I do either or.
Yeah.
If I can cause chaos anywhere in there.
Oh, absolutely. I'm a very unforgiving DM.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Like, especially if I'm playing with friends, I'm the worst.
Yeah, this guy is a vengeful god.
You wanna, the old saying, play stupid games, win stupid prizes.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Okay, so the very first essential that you need are going to be your character sheets. And you can literally, we just Googled this. You don't got to do anything special to get these. You can just Google them. You can print them out. When I very first started back in high school, none of us had a printer, so we just Googled it, got sheet paper, and just basically wrote down, okay, what's my character's name, class and level, background. So you don't need these per se. You just need the formula for it. You just need the outline of it.
That's pretty much what we did in high school too.
Oh, yeah.
And always remember, use a pencil.
Always.
Do not use pens.
You can use, we were discussing this, the only place you ever want to use a pen is going to be your character's name, background, the player name, alignment, and race.
Yeah, never put pen there either.
Never. And obviously the reason that you don't want to use pencil is because everything else is a usually consistently changing value. Obviously stuff like your HP, your experience, class and level, because you can multi-class and all that. But yeah, everything will change, and you don't want to be that guy that has to write HP is 60. Now you take 5 damage. Now you got to scribble out 60. Now it's 55. You get healed. It's back to 60 again, and you can just erase it. So pencils are a must. I cannot stress that enough. I've played with so many people, and I'll look at their character sheet. I'm just like, what is this? You wrote in pen.
The other thing we used to do as well is if we knew we were running multiple campaigns and we're short on these pages, we would pull them in the protective sleeve protectors.
Oh yeah,
and do them with dry erase marker.
That too. Or do what I used to do back in college, which is I would just save all my stuff on my computer. Back then I didn't have it on a piece of paper. I just had it on my computer. And
actually on smart devices now too, there are more than plenty of apps. Actually on my tablet, I use one app on there. It has a lot of my stuff I use on it.
Very nice.
For either a player or DM.
Okay, so yeah, character sheets, again, you can Google them.
I actually prefer having paper as well.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, but paper, it's a classic. I can use my computer, but if the option of paper is available, I like to use my paper.
Exactly.
And a folder, because when you play as DM, what I personally do, because I can't trust any of my friends, they'll make their character sheet. We'll meet up again next week. I lost it. It's like, great. So when I play as DM, I just have everyone give me all their papers. I put them in my folder and I store it away. And then next week I just put it right back out. So you always know where it's at.
Yep.
So character sheet, absolute must. You literally need it. And then next you need your dice.
The magical clackety clacks.
That's right.
So
go ahead.
I'll take this one on here. So your magical clackety clacks, it will vary on how many of each one you need based on class you're playing. We will go over that a little bit
Oh, yeah.
later. So we'll start with the D4. Use this in a lot of health potions,
Health
daggers,
potions, damage.
yeah, same D6, same. Especially once you get those little higher health potions.
I think it's D4 through D10, maybe 12. It's mostly just damage based, damage
Yeah.
and healing potions, and basically, I guess I would say combat based is what D4 through D12 is, and D20 once you get into those higher levels.
D20. D20 is the ultimate. That is the god dice. That is the dice you do not want to anger. That is the dice, if you will hand it to me, that it makes you mad and it does not behave.
Oh, just the entire thing.
Yep.
There you go.
We have such things as dice prisons. Bad dice, bad rolls. They're going in dice prison. We're moving on to another one because
Absolutely.
I'm a dice goblin myself, so I have a massive box of actual dice.
Oh yeah, same. Quick tip. This really just kind of varies person to person because I've experienced this myself. So we both have boxes of dice, and I've got all kinds of dice, clear ones, small ones. I have like the comically kind of large dice, like as a gag gift. I'm like, my D20 is like the size of my
Have
fist.
you not seen my 3D printed D20 over there?
Okay, I see it. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
But I mean, and one thing that I usually tell most people to avoid are, unless you really have no choice, which is rarely the case, and that's using. I personally don't like dice apps.
no.
Because if you're in an encounter or just anything, because D20, everything is a D20.
Yeah.
Besides talking, basic actions, you just do it. But if I say, like, I want to open that door, my character does it. But if I want to open it quietly and stealthily, I got to roll for that.
Stealth, bro.
And if someone I'm playing was, I want to do this, and they just happen to hit a button to roll it, as the DM, I can't see what you rolled. You may have rolled a 6, which is a failure, but it's a, they're like, it's a D20. Just trust me, it's a D20, and it's like,
No.
And the reason I say that's usually never the case of it's impossible is because if Justin and I are playing and I forgot my dice, hey, can I use your dice?
Yeah, and most of the times, like, especially when I come to the game, I always have all kinds of extra anyway. It's like, here's a complete set to get you through the game. I still got a complete set. Who else needs some?
Yeah, and again, dice are stupid cheap. Not any store, but I mean,
well, here at Black Box Gaming, what a perfect time for a sponsorship right here now. We actually have full sets of dice right here, like you see on screen, for sale, with a nice little fancy felt bag to come with them.
Very nice. And you're not seeing them, but there are other dice. You have your D100, which is basically just 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. So you would combine your D100 with a D10.
Yep.
Now you have basically values of 1 through 100 because 0 is not a variable.
And the other thing is, too, they make like potion dice, lightning bolt dice. There's so many of them.
Mm-hmm.
And the further you get in, especially if you're like, oh my god, I am going to be a spellcaster.
Oh yeah. Another thing you're not seeing is coin flip. Sometimes it's yes or no, and that's not always, but that's usually a DM kind of thing. Especially if it's if you're trying to talk to a guard, is he gonna be nice today? Nope, he's gonna be a jerk today.
Yep.
So dice again. It's an essential. There really is no playing with that unless you use apps, which again, I personally don't like apps. Some people do like using apps, and if you do, to me that says you really, really trust your players, which I think the more you play D&D, the more you
don't trust
your players,
I want to succeed. Yeah.
Oh, and one thing that we somehow didn't mention is the difference between a nat 1 and a nat 20. So, so a nat 1 is considered a critical failure. A nat 20, and we'll eventually get into why it's called a nat, which means natural. So again, let's say I want to open that door over there. A nat 20 would mean my character opens it flawlessly. I'm not sure how I want to open the door flawlessly, but my character swings it right open, and as an example, a gust of wind makes me feel amazing, and now I get like a dexterity bonus for the next turn.
Inspiration.
A critical failure, or a 1, means my character opened it very buffoonishly, and I somehow smacked my face with the door, and now I take like -2 health. So those are both, they're the ends. And now if you're fighting an enemy, with a basic longsword.
Mm-hmm.
You roll a 20. It usually means, based on levels and everything, usually means it's an instant kill. And as the DM, you would kind of go into more graphic nature of how the kill went through. Like, oh, you slice at the goblin, your sword flawlessly cleaves right through his head, he is down. But a D1 might mean like you
stabbed yourself in the foot with your own sword.
Yeah, like you swing, because it's less than a 10, that obviously means you technically missed. You swing downward and you hit yourself in the leg, take 5 health. And if you're a jerk, like, because really a D1 is up to the DM. I could say you swing your sword and break it against the wall. Congratulations, you now have a pathetic broken sword which does no damage. Good luck. But that's overall. D20, amazing success. D1, you goofed. You goofed hard.
And to sort of piggyback on that, the critical fail, critical, success is actually up to the DM. There is nothing in the player handbook that says you have to play that way.
Yeah. I think that's just the unspoken rule.
I have seen DMs that do not do it.
I have too. It's really weird. But every D&D game I've played, I've been playing for years. It's always been the thing. Like, oh, you rolled a 1, everyone probably goes like, oh no. We rolled a 20, everyone's just cheering. So dice, that's a must. So you have the things you need. You have your character sheets, you have your party, you have your dice.
You have your pencil.
You have your pencil. And not a pen. And then other things you might need again, folders, binders, anything else that you think may help you. So next you have to create your character. We're not going to go in depth. That's going to be for probably the next video. So real quickly, we're going to go over the races. And before we actually kind of quickly go over them, this is part of the character creation process. And your race is a defining attribute. So just real quickly, so here are some of the races. And these are your basic races. These aren't all of them. All of them, the race goes on. And even then, these are just the ones that are, some of them are listed. If you want to play as some outlandish race, it's really up to the DM. They may say like, no, I don't like the idea of that, or so on and so forth. And so, and this is part of where I think when I play with new people, this is one of the hardest things for them to grasp. And that's D&D is literally nothing but a bunch of nerds role playing.
Very much.
I am a 6'1" Asian male, and so my voice sounds like this. Personality-wise, I'm kind of blunt and I'm very sarcastic. Let's say I choose to play as a dwarf. Dwarfs are right here, bold and hardy. Dwarves are known as skilled warriors, miners, and workers of stone and metal. And so, real quickly in D&D lore, dwarf are the perfect labormen. Yeah. They live to work, they work to live. And so if I were the exact opposite of who I was, a very shy, mellow kind of person, but I played as a dwarf, I would role play as a dwarf. I would be very hardy. I would, stuff kind of like that. And if I'm talking to an elf, who are very tall usually, I could even, if Justin's playing as an elf, whenever my character talks to his character, I may, as me, actually look up, because that's what a dwarf would have to do.
I would look down upon you because you are
I'm a tiny little.
You're a lower species.
So first you pick your class, and there are limitations. And again, we'll go into that in character creation. For example, dwarfs generally, again, I think it's up to the DM's idea. Generally, dwarfs can't use magic.
Yeah,
I don't really know if that's changed. It's something that I've always stuck with. Of dwarves cannot use magic.
It's one of those things, it's sort of up to the DM, but there's no unspecific rule anymore in the 5th edition books. So, pretty much, if you go by 5th edition and your DM is cool with it, pretty much any race up here you choose, you can do any class. Like my last campaign, I was a tabaxi, which is pretty much a cat person, and I was a bard who played bagpipes. We will do a whole video on bards and the misconceptions, but I also spoke with a Scottish accent because he was an orange cat playing bagpipes.
So first you pick your class, and you really kind of want to think about what class you want to play as. Again, each class has their stigmas and stereotypes.
Yes.
And it kind of varies person to person. I personally have always seen Dragonborn as very not uppity, but like royalty almost.
High elves.
Yeah, like a high elf. Dwarves are hardy. They're not afraid to get their hands dirty. You're not gonna meet a dwarf who isn't afraid to stick his hand in a dead goblin's guts to pull something out. That's more of an elf kind of thing. I was like, oh no, I would never stick my hands in a dead body. Or I'll move aside, I'll do it, and they'll dig their hands in there.
And tieflings, they're god. And tieflings, one of my favorite subjects too, besides the tabaxi, because they are like the redhead stepchildren of the entire D&D universe.
Absolutely. And then you've got halves. So half orc, and it only lists 2 of them, half orc and half elf. But you can be half anything: half human, half tiefling, half gnome, half dwarf, which means you're just stupid small.
Isn't tiefling already considered a half? Isn't it like half demon, half human, anyways?
Sort of. We'll get into that.
Yeah,
no. That's a whole lore thing. And lore is huge in D&D. You don't have to know the lore, but generally the more you play, the more you just end up learning more and more about the lore. So you pick your class. And again, there's really no limitations.
This is race.
Oh, I'm sorry, race.
Yeah.
Classes is the next one. So
there we go.
There we go. So here are your basic classes, and again, basic are usually these are the ones that usually, if you're new to D&D, basic usually means try to stick to these. Your next campaign, try something new. So barbarian, bard, cleric, druid, fighter, monk, paladin, ranger, and rogue, sorcerer, warlock, and wizard. And we'll eventually get into the difference between sorcerer, warlock, and wizard. There's a huge difference between them in abilities and kind of personalities, I guess.
Eldritch Blast, that's all you need to know.
D&D, it's all role playing.
Magic Missile or Eldritch Blast. Those are the only thing you need to know from Magic users.
And so this is going to be your overall playstyle. This is going to be how your character also acts. So again, just as an example, let's take a barbarian. Brute strength. That is all they care about. They care about being the strongest, and that's it. They're usually not very smart because they're wild people. And as a barbarian, again, I can't, and I stress this so much because this is what always takes people forever to understand. It's role playing.
Yeah.
Usually the only items you have on you are going to be your dice and figurines, and you don't have to have figurines, but it makes it more fun for everyone. And so if you take a barbarian versus, let's say, a wizard, and they want something done, the barbarian is going to brute force it. If there's a locked door, the wizard may find a spell that can unlock it. The barbarian is going to take his axe and just try to break it down. And then everything.
Stupid door.
Stupid door, get out of here. And so you take your race, take your class. So let's take a look at the races one more time. So let's say I play as. So some things don't go very well together. I have never heard of a gnome barbarian. I'm sure someone's done it somewhere.
I have such ideas for a gnome barbarian.
But so take a dwarf or human, half orc, and these are going to be great barbarians because they're already large.
And I would like to point out too, while we're back on the race plays, if we go down to the human is. I know we're role playing, and a lot of people are like, "Oh, I want to try like elf or halfling, tiefling, something exotic." Honestly, human is the best starting.
Absolutely. Because you don't have to role play as a human. You are a human. Just be you. Like literally, if you have no idea what to name your character, just name them you. I mean, Adam isn't a very high fantasy name, but Adopt might be. Just add a th at the end of it. Add a th. Justin. But human is that's a very good point.
Plus human. 1 to all ability scores.
Absolutely. And then
and plus humans have the will to live.
Absolutely. And then again, I feel race isn't very difficult to pick until you learn that pretty much everyone has their role. Barbarians are going to be your overall damagers. Bards we'll get to bards, but that's a whole can of worms.
The bard is like the Swiss Army knife of the D&D world.
Clerics heal. That's their job. They heal. And now, of course, you can fight as a cleric, but overall... Death clerics. Monks, that's a little bit more advanced. I don't know why that's basic.
Tabaxi monks.
Oh, it's a perfect combination.
Yeah.
Fighters, again, that's kind of your overall damage. Those are, so basically fighter, barbarian, ranger... maybe paladin. Those are the folks you're going to have on the front lines of combat. Druids, bards, clerics, rogues. Maybe ranger can be either the front or the back. Those are the guys going to be in the back lines of combat. And so it's very important that when you pick your class, learn about your class.
Exactly.
If you want to play as someone who swings first, asks questions later, barbarian. If you want to play as someone who is, and again, we'll get into this later, I don't ever recommend it for your very first time, when religion comes into it, sometimes cleric, paladin's huge in religion, and we'll get into religion and all that. It's not, not to bash anyone, but Christianity, Buddhism, that's not in this. But there's a whole book on religion, basically.
We're talking about the sun gods,
gods of orcs. But
gods of the underworld.
But definitely do some research. Again, some of them you don't gotta do research. Barbarians, swing first, ask question later.
Yeah.
Rogue, you want to be sneaky and you want to stab people in the back. Ranger,
shoot bows.
You liked Aragorn from Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Fighter is your overall just, you fight.
To me, honestly, the best ever starting combination is fighter and human.
Oh, absolutely.
That is like the
absolutely
like the basic of the basic, because you can still get some pretty good cantrips as a fighter.
Oh, yeah.
You can actually eventually, and we'll hit this in a different video, multi-class.
Oh yeah, that's where the fun comes in. That's one of those. Oh, I love multi-classing. We'll get into all that in character creation and such.
Honestly, I rarely multi-class.
Really? I love multi-class.
I love the concept of it, but it's like at the same time, it's like I want to be a cleric but a necromancer at the same time.
You can do that.
You can.
You can absolutely can. If you want to be, and that's it. That is kind of, I think, one of the more fun and difficult parts is I might decide to play as, well, actually my buddy Sam always plays as clerics. He just likes healing. And, he might be in the back doing all kinds of healing business, and I might play as a rogue. And he might like seeing my character who uses abilities to go invisible, all kinds of stuff. He might say, you know what, I kind of want, you can absolutely be a cleric that also sneaks. It's 100% thing. You can multi-class. And again,
multi-class.
I don't know.
I mean, that's why cleric and necromancer go so well, because you, a healer, oh, I'm sorry, I got here a little late. Let me raise you back up from the dead. Because necromancers are the ultimate healers.
Oh, yeah. And we'll eventually get into homebrewing, but that's, a cleric and a rogue, I don't think that's a canon multi-class, but homebrewing basically means you're making up your own rules. You're making up your own classes, and there are tons of websites dedicated to random people who, I want to know what happens if you take a monk and a druid and you mix them together. Okay, well, I'm going to make this quick class. I'm going to call it a nature fighter, I don't know, and you'll build everything about it, and if you want to play as that, you show it to your DM, he looks over it, okay, yeah, I will allow this, and then that's it,
I think the worst I have ever seen is, and there's a video on YouTube about it, a man went through, it was for somebody's birthday, level 20 characters, make them, you can multi-class however you want. And he chose to multi-class everything. It comes to find out, it was the most useless character ever made. It was like, oh, you made a god. No, you made something completely useless.
So that was your classes. Now this next one these are just some of the books that you can get. Now here's the thing. There are tons, billions. Not billions, but tons.
Yeah.
Not even tons, tens really. These are physical books. Both Justin and I don't own a single physical D&D book.
Speak for yourself.
Well, okay, well, you do. I don't own a single D&D book. All of mine are PDFs.
Most of mine are.
Yeah, and now of course that's not true. Actually, I have a couple of 3 ebooks. I'm sorry. There is something nice about having an actual book. But if you're like most people, and you go to a physical venue like Black Box to play, you don't want to have to lug around 16 books when you can also just lug around a laptop with you, and there you go.
Yeah.
And you can get all of these from Wizards of the Coast website, a lot of game stores, not like GameSpot or GameStop, but a lot of D&D tabletop places, they'll usually sell these. But really, just get, sounds terrible, all the books I have, I didn't purchase any of them. I happened to come across people, and they'll say, oh yeah, I actually have the PDF for Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes. Oh, I don't have that one. Could you just mail it, Google Drive it? Oh yeah, sure, you go. There you go. Now I own it. And
Yeah, and that's like me actually because a lot of my books are third edition.
Okay, yeah.
I most of my fifth editions are all PDFs.
Yeah, and so, but overall, I would recommend you look into these, especially the starter set, because the starter set is it's not a book. It's a whole box, and it's going to give you a set of dice. I believe it comes with an hourglass, although I don't know why I have yet to ever come across an hourglass situation. Because everything's done in turns.
Yeah.
But you get dice, you get a couple of character sheets, you get an inventory sheet.
I think you get a couple small figurines with it too.
You do, yeah. You get like 3 figurines. I think they're randomized.
Yeah.
But yeah, this starter set is an absolute. And again, you can get all of these from the Wizards of the Coast website.
And to make it fun for those that are out there, and it's like, oh, so we only gotta do D&D. No, I actually have the Rick and Morty set at the house.
No, there is a ton of variations of D&D. You can so D&D is high fantasy, medieval. But I mean, I've played a sci-fi D&D. Like you could basically take the rules of D&D, but set it in a different time era.
Well, the Rick and Morty is D&D, but it's Rick and Morty D&D. I also have been looking at, again, the Stranger Things one.
Okay.
Just because I want the little mini that comes with it.
But yeah, there's tons of variations of D&D. Like there's a Witcher D&D that is owned by Wizards of the Coast. Oh yeah, it's tons of fun.
I might have to look into that.
It's very fun. Very complicated though. Cyberpunk isn't D&D, but people have made homebrew D&Ds based off of the Cyberpunk universe. Yep. But yeah, it's not just D&D. But highly recommend you look at it. If anything, get the starter set. If anything, get the starter set and get the player's handbook.
Yep, and so I'm zooming in here real quick. So, what I would suggest, of course, starter set, player's handbook, monster manuals.
I feel like a lot of these, like the Horde of the Dragon Queen, Rise of Tiamat, Dungeon, a lot of these feel kind of like DM stuff.
Yeah,
but,
so
I mean, if you're a player, player's handbook, monster manual, Dungeon Masters. Well,
Global's Guide to Monsters.
Absolutely, that's going to be an overall guide to the various monsters that you'll encounter.
Xanther's Guide to Everything. So
absolutely.
These 2 books are like my all-time favorites to go through.
Oh yeah, also the art is just
amazing.
The art in all of these is amazing.
And I have done this campaign, and I love Ravnica.
I have to play it still. Another thing that I highly recommend, it's not on here, I'm surprised we didn't pull up an image of it. Again, you can find them online, or you can get cards. That's going to be spells and abilities.
Yep, the cards. I have a couple of sets. I have my set for the Bard, and I actually have the Xanther's Guide to Everything. So pretty much what that pack is it's a pack of cantrips and spells that are out of that book, and it covers all the different classes.
Yeah, and so again, if you know dead on that you're with some friends, you decided you want to play D&D, and I want to be a wizard for sure, go ahead and go to Barnes & Noble's carries a ton of this stuff. If there's nowhere else near you, Amazon is a go-to. Yeah. I actually highly recommend going to the Wizard of Coast website because I think it's a little bit cheaper off their website, and you're not supporting Jeff Bezos, but that's a me thing.
And well, I guess we'll take this back to here too. So if you want a pure digital and you don't know anybody that has any of
anything,
any of the PDFs,
assuming everyone is brand new.
Yeah, so you can come in, make a free account with.
Oh, by the way, this is DNDBeyond.com. That's what we're using for this. This will give you everything you need to know for starting basic and more.
Yeah, and we'll put a link down to them as well. But they also have the player's handbook.
Yep. And this will walk you through the entire process of how do I do it. So because when you're brand new, you learn stuff like what's proficiencies.
Yep.
See if we'll get into quirks at some point. But that's a whole can of worms. That'll be in the next video, really.
See if it logged me in.
Anyways.
Yeah, so if you sign in, actually you can build your character sheet and everything on here and do it that way as well. It helps you keep track of things.
Yep, and then right down there, you actually saw the spell lists.
Yep.
And so, the thing about that is because there are tons of spells. And after a while, it gets kind of hard to keep up with all of them, which is why I recommend either writing them down, which you'll have to do anyways, or again, have the cards, or use this website, and it'll tell you. And again, that's a whole different can of worms to get into because spells require different levels. They require certain classes going to use certain spells. Because obviously, a barbarian isn't going to know a bard song. But yeah, guys. So, but this is basically everything you need to know, and we will eventually go over more stuff. This is just again the basics. We'll go over. The next video is going to be about making a character, where you'll get to basically watch Justin and I make a character, which I love making characters. But again,
I do too.
we'll get into that later. Is there anything else that they really need to know about the basics? We got the things we need: character sheet, dice, what books you should start off with, the basic classes, races. There will be an eventual video of DMs for like how do you start DMing, but that's a whole separate thing. So if there's nothing else,
I think the main thing is just remember, just come in, have fun with it.
absolutely, that's all D&D is. It's just having fun. Don't be afraid to do outlandish things. I don't know how many times my players, and this always gets me so mad, but I can't get mad at them. I don't know how many times they needed to get information out of a guard. And in my head, it's like, okay, I want them to coerce him. I want them to use a little bit of charm. No, barbarian picks him up against the wall.
Tell me what I want to
And
know.
it's like, okay, all right, I guess I'll just tell him what he wants to know. I kind of forgot that barbarians, are gigantic bulks of muscle. But yeah, have fun.
So the truth.
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah, have fun with it. Have fun. And the main thing I tell everyone is with D&D, your imagination is the limit.
It really is.
It's really neat knowing stuff like if you are playing as, let's just say, a wizard, and you're with a party of 3 other people, and you get surrounded by guards, and if you happen to be in ankle-deep water, and if you cast a fireball into the water, it makes steam. Now you're in a cloud of steam. Everyone, including your party's vision is clouded. It's all about imagination. And
Don't cast lightning bolt in the water.
No, don't do that. Or in the steam cloud for that, because then you make an electric cloud, and now everyone's screwed. But we'll get more.
Done such things.
Oh yeah, I have too, and I'll do it either because I forgot, or I was like, oh, I know what I'm doing. And
No.
that kind of comes into your alignment, and again, we'll cover that in the next video because the alignment again is a role playing thing. So I think 5e alignment isn't a thing anymore. I still do because that's part of the fun.
Oh no, it's still a thing.
Is it still a thing?
Oh,
Okay.
it is still a thing.
But again, the next episode we'll kind of get more into how you role play and the mistakes that new players tend to make, which you really can make a mistake role playing, but it's a nitpicky thing. But if there's nothing else, then we will see you guys in the next episode.
Catch y'all then.
All right, guys. Well, definitely hope you enjoy this video. Don't forget to check out our other videos. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It helps us out a lot.
And down in the links below, we will have a link to our Patreon, where if you sign up for that, you get special rewards. Like, I'm going to have a $5 tier where you get a free mini. I will send you a mini if you do the $5 tier every month. So,
and of course, come down to Black Box Gaming. Play some D&D with us. We will happily show you a great time indeed.
Yep, because
maybe good or bad.
Who knows? And we do more than just D&D here. We do Magic the Gathering. We do video games. We're set up to handle just about any tabletop. So,
Give me $20 and I'll dance for you.
There we go. Right there. So, we hope you have enjoyed. Keep an eye out for further videos. We're going to try to post one at least once a week. At least once a week for both series.
If any topics you guys want, again, comment down below and we'll look into them and we'll make videos about them.